He's a Fox Sports contributor and co-host of the Odd Couple podcast. I believe, Rob, that you also are a voting member. Is that right?
Yes, I am, Andrew. Great to be on with you. I have been voting since 2000 for the last 20 years. I'm a proud member of the BBWAA since 1990.
Were you surprised by this decision today?
Not really. From the standpoint of there weren't any guys who were like first ballot automatic like last year with Derek Jeter, where you knew he was going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. So it was more about there were guys who were on it who were linked to steroid and PED use. Those were the best players on it. So there was a chance that guys weren't going to vote for them. On my ballot, I voted for Barry Bonds. I voted for Roger Clemens. I voted for Sammy Sosa. And I voted for Gary Sheffield. All four of those guys were linked, and none of those guys got enough votes. But Bonds and Clemens are still in the running. Next year is their last year on the ballot. They both got about 62% of the vote. They need 75. It's not impossible for them to make it next year.
You know, not to bring up the coronavirus, but everyone blames a lot of things on the coronavirus these days. From someone who doesn't follow baseball that closely, I first thought it was because of the pandemic that this didn't happen this year. Has there ever been a year that this hasn't happened like 2021?
No, it's happened before.
Okay.
Sometimes they just aren't God. They usually have a big ceremony in July for it. Guys who didn't get inducted last year will be inducted. I mentioned Derek Jeter, so he'll be one of those guys being inducted this year, even though he was voted in last year. But it has happened. The one thing about baseball writers, they don't just put anybody in because you got to have somebody. If there isn't somebody worthy of being a Hall of Famer, they don't make it. And you've heard all the belly aching from Curt Schilling, who did not make the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Yes.
He got 71% of the votes. He believes that the media has it in for him, and like there's some anti-conservative movement by the press to keep him out of the Hall of Fame. And I want you to know, Andrew, it's complete hogwash, okay? It has nothing to do with politics or whether he's a Trump supporter, and I'll give you proof. Mariano Rivera was the very first unanimous inductee into the Baseball Hall of Fame, voted by the writers.
That's right.
Mariano Rivera can't be a bigger Trump supporter. He got in unanimously. Also, baseball writers have great integrity. In 1947, they voted Jackie Robinson, the first black player, as Rookie of the Year, and there were no black writers voting back in 1947. So this whole notion that the writers have something against him and that's why he's not in isn't true. He's just not good enough. He was very good. He wasn't a Hall of Famer.
But Rob, just to go back to Curt Schilling and just to give our viewers a sense, you need 75% threshold necessary of voters, correct?
Correct.
All right. And just to go back to Schilling, he said today that the Hall of Fame and the voters are more concerned, they're more worried about what the players do off the field and in their retirement than they did on the field while they played. What do you make of that contention?
Totally disagree. Here's another example. Barry Bonds was not a nice guy to the writers during his career. Yet the writers voted for Barry Bonds and he won 7 MVPs. So think about that. He isn't treating us nicely, but we still voted for him because his talent far exceeded. There's no way that writers wouldn't vote for him as MVP because he was the best player in the game. So none of his arguments hold up that we hold a grudge or we're worried about what somebody else is doing. His whole argument is that we're against him because of Trump and he's conservative and his statements on Twitter. Mariano Rivera would have never gotten in if that's the case. And number two, I've been in the press box for 35 years doing this job. Everybody in the press box, all the people in the press box are not Democrats. It's just not true. So I don't even know where he gets that from.
And yeah, we just wanted to say it's the 9th time the BBWAA did not elect anyone, and just the 3rd time since 1971. So this is precedented, if you will. This has happened before. Just your thoughts, though, because of the pandemic, Cooperstown won't be having a celebration this summer, or next summer rather. So going forward, will there be a chance? Because sometimes these players, they only have a certain chance to get into the Hall of Fame. Will some of those players see their chances dwindling next year, possibly?
Well, next year is the last year that they're on the ballot. You only get 10 years on the ballot. After that, you fall off the ballot from the writers. So next year will be Curt Schilling's 10th year, will be Barry Bonds' 10th year, will be Roger Clemens' 10th year, and I believe Sammy Sosa as well. So these guys will all be up. I definitely, so if they don't get into the writers, there's another way. I always call it the back door. The Veterans Committee, where former players, former managers, former general managers, those people vote. And sometimes they put in players who they feel maybe the writers overlook. But the writers take this. This is my most prized possession in my career, voting for the Baseball Hall of Fame. There's only 450 people who do it in a country of 330 million. And the writers take it very seriously. I might not agree with some of the votes that people have, but I do believe that the writers take it seriously, and they want to get the best players in, not the very good players, but the best of the best. Curt Schilling is not that.
Can we just kind of go into the process itself? We have you as a voter here live with us on NewsNOW. How does it all work? Do you get a ballot sent to you? Do you submit names in the mail? Is it kind of an online survey? Do you call up other voters? Is there a process in place for this? What's that like?
Yeah, so first of all, you have to have your baseball writer's card for 10 consecutive years to be eligible. So that gives you a right to vote. And then what happens from there is you get mailed a ballot, and players who have retired at least 5 years are on that ballot. All the players, it doesn't matter if they were really good or mediocre. If you retired for 5 years in the major leagues, your name is on that ballot. It's mailed to you. And then you have by December 31st to get it postmarked. You're allowed to vote for at least 10 players on the ballot. You don't have to use all 10 votes. I only used 4 this year, and that's the process. It's really, really simple, and you get to stay on the ballot for 10 years, and after that, your name drops off.
All right, Rob, I just want to ask you a last question, switch gears here just because I have you, and we watched today here on NewsNOW from Fox. We took the funeral of Hank Aaron live in Atlanta. Just your final thoughts on the memory of Hank Aaron. He's arguably one of the greatest Hall of Famers that there is. Not talking about the Hall of Fame. Saw him laid to rest today. What will people remember about Hank Aaron 20, 30, 40 years from now?
He was a great ball player. We all know that. Great slugger. Couple numbers. If you were to take away his 755 home runs, he would still have 3,000 hits.
Wow.
He was 3 RBIs short of averaging 100 RBIs a season for 23 years. These are all incredible numbers. The all-time RBI leader. He was an unbelievable slugger, but he was an even better person. And when you think about the racism and the hatred that went towards him because he was going to break Babe Ruth's record, death threats against his children, and he was able to play with dignity and grace and never let that stuff bother him, and never fired back at people or expressed anger at anyone. He just played ball, and for that we'll remember him as as someone that you could look up to and respect for his hard work and the way he carried himself. He was a gentleman and well respected, and Hank Aaron will be missed. There won't be many like a Hank Aaron, but what a great man, and I can't speak more highly of Hank Aaron.
Yeah, and just lastly, just to note, there have been several Hall of Famers we've lost in the last several months, thinking Tom Seaver and the like. So Rob Parker, Fox Sports contributor and host of the Odd Couple podcast. Appreciate you joining tonight on News Now from Fox. We'll see you again if there's any more baseball stories coming our way. So, have a good night.
All right, Andrew. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, such an interesting story that we're bringing to you tonight on this Tuesday. You know, a lot of our news that we cover is politics and COVID-19 and, you know, frankly, sad and depressing stories. But if we can slip a sports story or an entertainment story in there, we will do it, no doubt. That's so interesting coming out of Cooperstown, New York tonight that the baseball hall will get no new members. And like Rob said, Curt Schilling just 16 votes shy of making the ballot this time around. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. We have another live report coming up from Wisconsin, from our affiliate there, talking about the vaccine rollout in the Badger State. So we'll see you back here in 2 minutes.